Welcome to the Disabled Podcast, starring your host, Christian Reitz.
Hot dog, let's go!
Welcome to the Disabled Podcast, the show that incorporates disabilities with the magic of Disney. Welcome to Episode 4 of Season 4, entitled The Magic and the Menu. Be sure to use our hashtag the Disabled Podcast when sharing this podcast to all of your social media platforms. Now again, that's hashtag the Disabled Podcast when sharing this podcast to all social media platforms. And now, here is your host, Christian Reitz. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Disabled Podcast. Guys, it's been a few weeks again since I've done an episode of the Disabled Podcast. Last week, I was actually on vacation at the beach, so I was not able to post this week's episode. That was supposed to be last week, but again, that's just because things didn't work out like I had hoped. Honestly, I forgot that I was even going on vacation, so that kind of snuck up on me. But in this week's episode, guys, we're going to talk about Disney food. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking about Mickey churros, Mickey pretzels, Mickey ice cream bars, and all that stuff. But guys, in this week's episode, we're actually going to talk about something that's even more serious than that. Because for some people, let's be real, it's what makes Disney Disney is the food, right? But for some people, it doesn't really come off that easy. In fact, for some people, it's a little bit harder to find the right food on vacation. And so that's what we're going to talk about in this week's episode of the Disabled Podcast. But before we begin this very special episode of the Disabled Podcast, if you're watching on YouTube, I want to direct your attention to the QR code that is popping up on your screen right now. And that's going to take you directly to the Facebook page for the Disabled Podcast. Now, on that Facebook page, you're going to find links to every streaming platform that we are on right now, with more to come very soon. Stay tuned for that announcement in the next couple of months. As well as you're going to find a link for the Disabled Podcast merch store, where you can buy merch from the podcast made exclusively for you. And of course, there you can also find real updates about upcoming episodes for the Disabled Podcast and for certain segments we're going to be introducing in this season and moving forward. So be sure to go scan that QR code or check out the links in every description box below so you can keep up to date with everything that is the Disabled Podcast. So let's get on with this week's episode and talk all about Disney food. Now, as I said, for a lot of guests, food, and really for anybody, food is a part of the fun of a Disney vacation. It's one of those things where you're walking through the Magic Kingdom, grabbing a Mickey pretzel that's around $8, a Dole Whip, churros, and even those cheeseburger spring rolls that people will literally cross the entire park for, which would absolutely be me every single time without hesitation. Yes, I am a fan of cheeseburger spring rolls and also the pizza spring rolls from the Magic Kingdom in Adventureland in that little cart. Yeah, that's me, guys. I am one of those people. But of course, and like all of that's great, and those people, I'm with you guys. But there's also this other version of the park that doesn't get talked about in the same way. For some guests, actually, food is not casual. It's honestly not about cravings or really impulse, like for a lot of us. For a lot of people, it's about safety, ingredients, and making sure that nothing gets missed before the first bite even happens. And when you look at food allergies like celiac disease and others similar restrictions altogether, you're realistically talking about around 1 in every 10 guests that are navigating some form of that every day at the Walt Disney World Resort, whether that's in the parks or at the resorts themselves or even at Disney Springs. So what that means is this. Two people can be standing in the same line, looking at the same menu, and doing completely different jobs in their head. There's one person that's thinking, oh, this sounds really good, right? But then there's the other one that is verifying what is safe. It's the same moment. It's completely different responsibility, though. And Disney does actually have a system for this. You just got to know how to step into it. And so what I want to do with you is I want to take you park by park and mention just a few of the things that I would recommend and some of the restaurants that are there and some of the areas you can eat in some of the theme parks, as well as a few of the resorts. So let's talk first about the Magic Kingdom. Now, when you first walk into the Magic Kingdom, most of the food there is actually quick walk-up style. Now you have Mickey pretzels that are around $8. The popcorn buckets are usually around $5 to $7. Of course, there's Dole Whip for about $5 to $6. Churros around $6 to $7. Turkey legs from $12 to $15. Now that part's simple. You order, you move on. But when you step into actual restaurants, this is where your approach, especially for somebody who has a food allergy, actually matters. Now, there are places that I would recommend that you go to where your food is going to be taken care of. And of course, across all of Walt Disney World, your food is going to be taken care of with precise care, just all around. Now, at Magic Kingdom, places like Columbia Harbor House, if you're trying to keep things both safe and reasonable in price, you want to focus on those meals that are already simple in their structure. Like, for instance, the grilled salmon. Now, that's usually around the mid to high teens in price, but it's a strong option because it actually is straightforward protein. Now, of course, another one of those options is the chicken breast with rice and vegetables, which is usually around $11 to $13. And that's one of the most manageable meals in the park because everything there is safe and it's visible. Even something like a salad with grilled chicken can work if you control the dressing. So you can actually have them remove the dressing or give you a different type of dressing, or I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and I should have done more research on this before, or I wish I would have done more information on this. I have to look deeper into this in the future. But I believe you can actually, if I'm not mistaken, and if you're on any one of our streaming platforms, please let me know if you've had this experience. You can actually ask them to give you the dressing on the side. Usually it comes in those packets for the dressing. Now, when it goes to ordering, here's how you would approach ordering your food. You would tell the waitress or waiter clearly that you have a food allergy or that you need ingredient verification. Now, that's what's going to trigger this very next step. The next step is going to happen is a trained chef or a trained lead will step in and go through the meal with you. Now, if anything needs to be removed, swapped, or adjusted, they actually handle it right there before it's even made. Now, if you want to make things even clearer than that, you can actually tell them that you want everything to be kept separate. And that's how you can avoid guessing once the food is right in front of you. You're able to see each part of that specific meal that you're eating before you eat it instead of trying to figure it out afterwards. Now, if we were to go across the park from Columbia Harbor House and go into Tomorrowland, places like Cosmic Race Starlight Cafe, which is one of my favorites, this is where the environment is faster, but of course the system is still going to work the same way underneath everything. So here you want to stick with simple items that are easy to modify. Now, I would usually recommend at this point a plain hamburger, which is again usually around $11 to $13, a grilled chicken sandwich in that same range for one of your most straightforward options. And of course, there's also some plant-based options like a plant-based burger, and that's going to land you around $12 to $14 in price. And that's really depending on your needs. So they can also modify things just like Columbia Harbor House would to what your specific needs are. Now, what matters is what you say when you order this food. You don't just go up and like, hey, can I just get all of this taken off? I mean, you could say that, but what matters is how you order it. You might need to say something like along the effect, actually, not even might, you will probably have to say something along the effect of, hey, listen, I've got this food allergy. Can you check on this order for me? Now, what that's going to do when you say something like that or something similar to that, that's going to flag your order in their system. Now, from there, ingredients are checked before anything is assembled. Now, the bun is verified, the sauces are reviewed instead of automatically added, and anything that does not work for you gets removed or replaced. And of course, if there are any concerns about cross contact, your meal is prepared separately. So you're not trying to control every detail yourself. You're actually activating a process that is really built and tailored to what your needs are. It's actually designed to do that for you. And that's really how the Magic Kingdom has always worked once you understand it. The snacks are simple, quick service becomes adjustable when you speak up, and the structured meals give you visibility and control over what you eat. Now let's go on and talk about our next park, when we take the monorail over and go straight to Epcot. Now, when we take the monorail over to Epcot, Epcot is the place where things shift slightly. Now, of course, there are many restaurants across Epcot in the World Showcase that you can go to and enjoy some things there. But there's a few restaurants that I personally recommend to people who do deal with food allergies. So, for instance, there are places like at Sunshine Seasons. You want to focus on those meals that don't hide the ingredients. So for Sunshine Seasons, there's things that you can order there like a rotisserie chicken with sides, grilled salmon with rice, or simple grain bowls that are usually in the $14 to $18 range. And those are some of the most reliable options. Those meals actually don't change often, which makes them really easy to trust once you've actually confirmed your options. Now, if we go over to Connections Eatery, which is brand new slightly, but it's really been kind of new in the last couple of years. Connections Eatery, you're looking at simple, clearly labeled items. Now, that course that could be anything from a plain cheeseburger to a grilled chicken sandwich, which usually those items are going to last probably around $13 to $15. But those are the most easy to adjust items than anything layered or heavily sauced. So if you say, I don't want to put, I'm allergic to this, you can just have them take it off and it's fine. Now, again, you have to ask for an allergy check and let the system handle the verification. Now, of course, those are just a couple of the places that I recommend. But again, really Epcot is different because of what it is like mostly throughout the year. See, at Epcot, and I've said this before in recent episodes, Epcot has festivals throughout the year. Now, festivals are different. This is where you slow down every single time. Like, even if something looks familiar, you just don't assume it's the same. You have to ask about the ingredients, you confirm, and then you decide. And that's how you avoid surprises. Now, again, those festival booths, I mean, there are some great options there, and they do offer some allergy-friendly options. You just have to look at the menu, or you can download the My Disney Experience app for Apple and for Android and actually look at the festival booths before you even get to Epcot, weeks before your trip, or maybe the week before. They usually kind of do it about like a month or like 3 weeks ahead of time. So you can see kind of what is available for the different festivals that Epcot has throughout the year. Now, if we were to take a bus and go over to Hollywood Studios from Epcot, Hollywood Studios is more faster paced, but the same approach that I just mentioned before actually still works. There's places like Docking Bay 7 over in Galaxy's Edge, where you're looking at meals that are built in parts. Now, those meals would be like chicken bowls or salads, which are usually around the $14 to $18 range. Now, that structure actually makes it easier to adjust what goes in and what stays out. Now, if you were to go to Toy Story Land, which is one of my favorite areas of Hollywood Studios, and end up at places like Woody's Lunchbox, where everybody goes, they usually offer some of the more home kid-friendly type items, which is usually like a grilled cheese, which is typically around like $9. But it's one of the more simpler options, but you still confirm how it's prepared. Now, if we were to go down Sunset Boulevard and kind of go past where the Little Mermaid show is, that is currently there, you're going to find the ABC Commissary. Now, at the ABC Commissary, you're going to want to stick with a basic chicken sandwich or a regular burger for around $12 to $14 to keep things predictable and easier to modify. Now, let's talk about our last park, and that is Disney's Animal Kingdom. So, Animal Kingdom, for our last park, is really one of those places where things like managing food is going to feel like the most controlled for people who have food allergies. Now, of course, there's so many places around Animal Kingdom that I would recommend. Even though Animal Kingdom is a bigger park, there are still a little bit less options for where to eat, and especially where to get food allergy friendly type of foods. So there are a few different places that I'd recommend. I'm going to recommend just three to you in this week's episode. Now, there's Satuli Canteen, which is over in Pandora. Now, at Satuli Canteen, you're actually going to end up building your own meal. That means you're going to get to choose your protein, your base, your sauce, which is usually around $12 to $16. But what that's going to allow you to do is that's going to allow you full control and direct control over what goes into your food before it's even made. And so there's just some incredible options there on their menu. Again, you can go and download the My Disney Experience app to take a look at what Satuli Canteen has to offer to see what is right for you and your situation. Now, one of my family's favorite places to go to is Flame Tree Barbecue in Animal Kingdom. Now, for Flame Tree Barbecue, meals like chicken or ribs, they're usually around $14 to $18, depending on what you want. And they can be simply adjusted by asking for sauces on the side. Now, of course, there's other places around there, like Kusafiri, but another one place, really the last place I would recommend for Animal Kingdom is Yak and Yeti local food cafes. Now, here you're going to look at the chicken or the rice-based dishes that are around $14 to $16. And the key here is asking questions before ordering so everything is confirmed up front. So again, those are just three of the places in Animal Kingdom. And of course, there's so many more options. But again, I always point back to the My Disney Experience app for those types of options to take a look for anybody who wants to go on a Walt Disney World vacation and is planning this out with food allergies. Always download the app and take a look with your family so that way you're not surprised when you go on your very first trip or even your 90th trip to Walt Disney World, because we want to make sure that food is accessible for all people, even people who deal with complications throughout their entire lives. And not only are there options for inside the parks at Walt Disney World, there's actually some options at the resorts. Now, this is where everything slows down in a way that gives you more support. Now, of course, if you go to any resort on property, most of these are reservations. But there's a lot of quick service options that are amazing. And so I'll just give you a few of the reservation style options that are some of my favorites, and some of them that I've actually never been to, just to give you an idea of what is there. Now, at Ohana, which is right at Disney's Polynesian Village Resort and Bungalows, there are allergy-friendly meals that are typically prepared separately and brought out intentionally after being reviewed by a chef. So you, again, going back to the My Disney Experience app, you want to take a look at some of those options for Ohana. Now, if we get on the monorail and we go to Chef Mickey's at Disney's Contemporary Resort, that is more of a buffet style dining, and that becomes guided. And cast members will actually be able to walk you through what is safe and often serve you directly to avoid cross contact. Now, if we were to stay there and go to California Grill, those meals can be fully customized. Simple proteins, vegetables, rice, and sauces can all be adjusted and confirmed before they are served. And when you really, zoom out and you look at the full picture, this is the part that really matters. You're not just walking into these places, whether in the parks or at the resorts, guessing. You're either choosing something simple or you're clearly stating what you need and letting the system respond. And once you understand how all of that works, everything becomes more predictable, more controlled, and a lot less stressful. So I want to make sure that you guys have the most information for this week's episode of the Disabled Podcast so you can begin planning your next Walt Disney World trip and have the most magical time ever. Now, guys, usually this is the part where I tell you to have a magical day and we'll see ya. And then Mickey always says real soon, and it's all cute. And we'll get to that here in just a moment. But I want to stop right here for just a moment and talk about the podcast itself. Don't worry, I'm not quitting the podcast. We're just changing a couple little things. And actually, there's something very exciting that I'm going to be adding to this podcast because let's just say you can't get enough of this podcast. So, but again, we'll get into that in just a second. Now, usually on Saturday nights at 7:30 p.m. is typically when I post these episodes. But lately, because of vacations or hiccups with equipment, technology, editing, those of you that are in podcasting, you obviously know about all those things. Sometimes there are just hiccups that you cannot control. And so you feel like when you promise something like Saturday at 7:30 p.m., you feel like you're on a time crunch, especially when you haven't really had much time to record like you thought you would have over the week or in the last few days that you had to prepare for a podcast. And so I wanted to go ahead and officially announce a new change for the Disabled Podcast. Instead of Saturday nights at 7:30 p.m., we're going to move to Monday nights at 7:30 p.m. Still every 2 weeks, you will get a brand new episode of the Disabled Podcast. It just goes now from Saturday nights to Monday nights at 7:30 p.m. Now, of course, that seems like a simple change to everybody, but I thought it would be fun to throw in something that won't happen every time. But you just never know when I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of magic because some weeks I'm not going to post one at all. I'm actually going to post 2 episodes of the Disabled podcast within the very same week. So stay tuned again to the Facebook page to see when those things are going to happen. And of course, for all the updates, for anything that I have to say about the next few episodes, and to hear about what's coming up on future episodes of the Disabled podcast, including, and I'll go ahead and tell you guys this now so you guys can get ready, in just a couple weeks, actually in just like 2 or 3 episodes, we're going to be introducing a brand new segment from here on out called Hometown Magic. So stay tuned for when the first episode of Hometown Magic comes out. Guys, I am so excited for my guest to join me for that podcast. Specifically, you're not going to want to miss that special episode of Hometown Magic Part 1. Well, guys, with all of that being said, have a wonderful day, everybody, and we'll see ya
Real soon.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the Disabled Podcast. Be sure to use our hashtag the Disabled Podcast, when sharing this podcast to all of your social media platforms. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see ya real soon.